You're back for more great science fiction here on BuzzChomp. I'm Dan Salem, and I'm talking about The Handmaid's Tale, Testaments, book to screen.
I'm Mandi.
I'm Dan.
Subscribe to
BuzzChomp. Woo!
Woo!
Handmaid's Tale is an incredible book, an incredible TV series we covered here on BuzzChomp, and Testaments was Margaret Atwood's follow-up novel, a sequel, a true sequel, because it's pretty much lost on someone who hasn't read the first book or followed the show. But book to screen. She wrote this book after the show already started. It takes place after the show will likely have ended. So the first season of Handmaid's Tale follows the first book. Then there are subsequent seasons. Not going to give too many spoilers. This is mostly about the book Testaments, which is the follow-up novel. Now, it's very possible the final season of the show will be the Testaments. This is because Testaments, book to screen, is truly an incredible way to wrap up the show. It's an excellent book. I highly recommend it if you like The Handmaid's Tale. It's great. It's about Aunt Lydia, and it's about June's two daughters, Agnes and baby Nicole, aka Jade. She has many names. Testaments follows these three women. You'll notice I didn't mention June because June is not in the book until the final chapter or two where she's reunited with her daughters, finally. Spoiler! This is a really cool way that the world wraps itself up. The first book ends with historians looking back upon Gilead and studying The Handmaid's Tale, the document, the journal they found that June wrote. This book ends with historians looking back, studying not only June's writings, but the writings of her two daughters, witness testimony after having escaped Gilead, and Aunt Lydia, who stashed her own secret writings inside a book that was in Ardura Hall's library. Aunt Lydia was the ultimate mole. She was the one helping Mayday, feeding Mayday, getting the women out. She was the one that got the information out that ultimately brought down Gilead and exposed all their crimes and took the entire nation down from within. This nation only lasted about 15 years. At the beginning of Gilead, we know June's daughter was 6 or 7. At the end of Gilead, in Testaments, we know that same daughter is at most 21. I think she's more like 18. That's not a lot of time. This whole crap shit of show really just took place in a very small packet of awful time for these people involved. Book to screen. I would love to see Testaments become the final season of the Handmaid's Tale show, or the show send an homage out to this book, which would be the ultimate wrap-up after the show concludes. We don't know how many seasons the show's going to go. We do know that it began with Atwood's original story from the first book. I mean, they added more characters, they took some liberties, because Atwood's open-ended with a lot of her descriptions and a lot of her subtleties. She's not doing anything differently in this book. The best part about Testaments is that she throws an homage back to the show. There was not a baby Nicole in her book. June was pregnant, and it ended. Baby Nicole was her baby that got out, and you know that from the show. It alludes to other things that happened in the show to June, to the children. But it's not specific enough to ever contradict itself. This was brilliant. The show never contradicts her books, and her new book never contradicts what the show said. It's one full world. That means the show can truly take everything from Testaments and work itself in. If it wants to backfill some of Aunt Lydia and make Aunt Lydia the mole earlier in the show, they can, because it's never even conceived of Aunt Lydia being a good person. We saw her history. We saw that she was trying to do good, but in trying to do good, she ended up doing bad. The Aunt Lydia that brings Gilead down from within, this was her plan all along. She figured she'd do whatever she had to do to get by, but ultimately she was cataloging information that she could use to take Gilead down, because she still believes in women. She's not a bad person. She was just put in a bad situation and didn't want to die. She sort of helps people. She sort of covers things up. It's alluded that she has a soft spot for June. We don't know why. This would explain all that, and it's really cool. We'll see if the show actually takes it there. I don't know if Atwood and the show's showrunners have consulted, because she obviously worked on this book for some time. It came out the end of last year. So it's not like she wasn't working on it during the show, but it's also the show could have talked to her about what she planned to put in it. I really, though, want to see the show jump down the rabbit hole of June's daughters being full-grown people, because baby Nicole, last we left, is still basically a baby, and Agnes is still a very little child. Well, seeing them both as pseudo-adults dealing with Gilead, dealing with the world, having grown up in the world, is really cool. And so I could love to see the show flash forward towards the events of Testaments as it fuels back into the present day June. It'd be a real shame if the final season of Handmaid's Tale did not include June, because she, Elizabeth Moss, is just tremendous and has been the crux of the gripping nature of this tale. That being said, Testaments doesn't have the overarching foreboding aspect that the first book had or the show has. This is after the fact. You can kind of assume from the beginning, having known the backstory, that you're reading about Aunt Lydia and you're reading about June's daughters, and their witness testimonies, which means Gilead kind of fall and they're not dead. They got out, they survived, and something good happened. It has the ending you expect, but it's everything in the middle that is just so interesting and so well written and so cohesive. At the end of Handmaid's Tale, though, you know it comes to a conclusion because you see the historians reading about it hundreds of years in the future. I love that they took it back there. I would really like to see them try to recreate that historians moment in the show at the very, very end of the show. They have to, right? Because both books end with historians talking about Gilead. The show needs to end with historians talking about Gilead and trying to understand this effed up universe that existed for like a blip in time. Testaments is going to find its way onto the screen via the Handmaid's Tale show. I don't know if it's going to find its way in right away. I don't think it's found its way in yet, even though I'd have to go back and rewatch to confirm. It definitely will find its way in into the final season, however long in the future that will be, because this show is awesome. It could really go on for a while. We got 15 years or so to cover, and then with the future looking back, as historians, you could kind of take it in a new direction and play off different timelines and different people's lives and different parts of those lives. It's very cool because Testaments doesn't really include anybody from the original Handmaid's Tale, except for the two children, which weren't grown up, and Aunt Lydia. The book took what the show did. Now it's time to reverse-y. I'm Dan Salem. Comment below with your own thoughts on Testaments, The Handmaid's Tale, and where you'd like to see this show go. It's a great book if you haven't read it. I highly recommend it, and I can't wait to see how it finds its way onto the screen. Woo!
Thanks for watching BuzzChomp.
Subscribe and share.
Subscribe and share.
Subscribe and share.